everyone, welcome back to JP's Budget Collecting and another episode of the Indie Show. We are back talking more Deadly Class. We are into the third hardcover, aka Volume 7 is what we're talking tonight. And we had GT Key in here early, and my man John, who didn't hang out long enough to tell me I was late, so he missed his opportunity. So there you go. With me, as usual, we got my man Greg. What is going on?
Listen, if John doesn't show up, in time to tell you that you're late, he doesn't know now. He's gone. He thinks he started on time.
He was there 2 minutes before we were supposed to start, but he apparently couldn't hang around long enough to tell me I'm late. So there you go.
So we started on time.
That's right, we did. And we got my man Gor Vidal. What is going on?
I think John knows that if you're ever late with me, it's because of me. If I'm ever in any line,
it was not because of you. We were just talking.
Well, might as well. I mean, I don't mind.
Which is also why John probably wouldn't say that then, because he's like, it's Gor.
He wasn't going to take shots at Gor, the new normal.
No.
So we are down a person tonight. We have no Haley tonight. Sorry, John. I already commented on that. She had something come up. She wasn't going to be able to make it. She insisted we go ahead. So that is what we were going to do. So hopefully she will be back for Volume 8 and make the show that much better. So we are talking Volume 7 tonight.
Oh, boy.
And I got an old boy for Gor, so we're going to let Gor go first. What are your thoughts just in general on Volume 7?
Where would any creator of that generation be without Frank Miller?
Yeah.
I mean, this book is all Frank Miller. It was from these issues from the beginning to the end. It's the best of Daredevil, the best of Wolverine, Ronin. It's absolutely, and all these John Wick films. Who needs John Wick? You have these issues right here.
No.
I really enjoyed these. They were definitely it was tough. It was exciting. It was having to wait 30 days. It was frustrating. And just when you thought the action was going to stop, it didn't stop. It kept rolling and rolling. And
yeah, I can't imagine reading this as singles, as they're coming out.
Yeah.
Because my thought, I'll go before I let Greg go, but my thought was I felt like I was reading the big action sequence at the end of a John Wick or something, like the middle movie of a trilogy, but like the big action sequence at the end that just goes on for 35 minutes, 40 minutes, right? Just a nonstop sequence is what it felt like. Greg, what about you? What did you think of this volume?
I really liked it. It hit the right beats for me. I found myself waiting for because I feel like in all the previous volumes when it's been action, we always get just a slow down issue, where he pulls off the accelerator a little bit and he's like, okay, we're gonna have weird, we're gonna have a bonding moment, we're gonna have some character development, and Rick Remender here is just he's foot to the floor, gas going nonstop. And I mean, the entire trade was a fight sequence like you've both talked about. It was fantastic. You still got other elements that you wanted in there, but man, I was caught myself going yes and oh, and I'm cheering along as you're watching people fight and twists and turns, and it was good. I liked it. It's what I wanted in Deadly Class.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was you get, because he does, you're right, previously we've always gotten pauses that have lasted most of an issue or that kind of thing. Our pauses were 3 panels.
Right.
There were little snippets of conversations that were all super important, but they were super short, and then it was right back into just the crazy action. So we start this one. This is a shorter one. There's only 4 issues in this volume, so it's just 32 through 35. But we start this where we left off, which is Marcus has got a gun on Victor. And so, we see initially the first couple pages is actually a flashback and a reminder. At this point, Marcus thinks Victor killed Saya and knows he killed Willie. So we get a flashback to him remembering the two of them as he's holding the gun on Victor. And Brandy's got a knife in her gut. So what did you guys think of this opening sequence? Greg, I'll let you go first here.
it made me appreciate Remender a little bit more than I've. This series has already done that, but I was anticipating reading this chapter, and we weren't going to get closure to what was happening with Marcus and Victor right away. I felt like we were going to get like. I feel like he has a tendency sometimes to just go like, all right, cool. I'm going to do another whole storyline and I'm going to leave you hanging for a couple issues here. And, and I thought it was just what I appreciated is he didn't do that. And not to say that there isn't a time and place for it, but because I was expecting it, it didn't happen. And I was like, I like that as a writer that like doesn't fall always into the same tropes that he has utilized to tell a story earlier. He's like, okay, for this story, I want to go right into where we left off. And I felt like it was a nice surprise as a reader of like, okay, we're going to get this. And, I like the setup that we had with, Marcus narrating this, and you start to have the discussion of what they're going through and what they're dealing with. And again, it feels like a fight scene from Daredevil, from the TV show, or from the Punisher, just fighting the entire, clan that's coming after them. And it was nonstop. And I feel like we talk about it every time, but Wes Craig's art is masterful in this. There is in this issue, there is that panel where they're like on the hotel court area, and they're moving the characters along throughout the whole thing, and it's telling the story as you go along. And it's the same characters in the same page and the same splash, but they're just moving throughout the, around the balcony. And I was just like, I love when artists do stuff like that. And, and to see kind of the relationships how they all got broken up into kind of pairings, right? And to see where they the conversations that they start to have with each other and are starting to try and figure out like, okay, what do we want to, what kind of story arcs do we want to tell here? Because there's a lot of story that they can tell in Deadly Class and a lot of relationships that they can foster and deal with. And we got some interesting pairings, which I thought was really intriguing.
Yeah. Gor, what about you? What do you think about this issue and how this issue opens with Marcus and Victor and how they're interrupted and how this all kind of goes down here in this first issue?
Well, I like that softness in this first 2 pages, really, in the sense of remembering the past.
Right.
When he was happy, and many of those people who are, some of those people are now dead, right?
Yeah.
And
well, he thinks they're all dead when he's remembering.
Right. And these 2 pages are actually very important. And I did not realize that until the series ended.
You should, Coach Vic. I'm enjoying the heck out of the series. So. And
Coach Vic, I think this is I think you will enjoy this series very much. And then we jump into like Greg said, he just didn't. I mean, the last issue, the gun is pointing at Victor, right? And in most comics, the first page would be that scene again, or something like that. And then, but that's not what you get. And I think emotionally, by him doing this moment of tenderness, I think this makes what subsequently happens even more powerful.
Yeah.
It really hits the reader, I think, in a very strong way. And this first issue or 2 is just Victor and Marcus going at it. I just enjoyed it. What Remender did here, and of course you have to credit Craig. I mean, Wes Craig. I mean, this is from the Wolverine miniseries. I mean, look at this, right? This is Frank Miller.
Yeah.
I mean, this was talked about on John's channel and Justin's channel, right?
Yeah.
And I saw an interview with Wes Craig a while back, and he said when he was at art school, he said that the department he was in was looked down upon because they were doing comics. He said the others in the art looked down on them, and he knew that. He said he didn't care.
Yeah,
he was going to do comics, and it's that issue with comics that those of us who appreciate the medium as a serious art form, as good as a film, as good as a book, and yet there is that part of the people who like art who will not appreciate something like this. I mean, Craig on this. I mean, you guys have touched on it even before I did. All three of you was how damn good Craig is on this book.
Yeah.
You know, and so yes, and I just can't talk enough about this.
Yeah.
So yeah, we get this opening sequences. It opens with Marcus with the gun on Victor, but quickly are interrupted with it. I didn't really register you said the Frank Miller thing, but like basically the mutants from the Dark Knight Returns breaking in instead of the Yakuza.
That's right.
You got Bob right there.
They're very much like, you know, with the spikes and the everything.
That's right, JP.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so, and then it just becomes a non-stop action sequence, the rest of the thing. And we're splitting initially between in the room where Victor and Marcus are forced to team up to get away from the Yakuza and Brandy, to the ones that were already outside trying to escape and teaming up into like expected and unexpected teams, I think. But I mean, yeah, we talked about the West Craig, like this one where he's on the skateboard.
Oh my God, look at this. This is insane.
You know, and
this one with Maria, I like this one a lot.
Oh yeah, that was the other one I was going to flip to, which was
I'm sorry, JP, I beat you to
Yeah,
it.
no, you're good. Yeah, so like there's just like all these sequences of them running, trying to get out of the hotel and away from the Yakuza, and Z and T basically end up together, and Petra and Hellman end up together.
Yes.
And Maria ends up with Quan. And she, like, I just love how badass Maria is in this whole sequence, because, like, Quan quickly realizes that, yeah, he's got nothing for this girl. Like, he's got no chance with her.
No.
Yeah, they're all fighting to escape. It's just a nonstop running sequence, but I love the way this. The other thing I love, you talked about the panel on going down the steps. I love this series of panels on the boats where they're jumping from boat to boat, and you see the way the fight sequence proceeds. Like it's the same panel of the boat, but it's just their movement through it over and over again over those 2 pages. And yeah, the Wes Craig art. Wrong person though. Was gonna do that for, but yeah, it's just he shines in this volume because like there's words and you get a lot of Marcus's thoughts here, but it's mostly just him telling the story with action. And finally they kind of get initially away from the Yakuza, and we get the moment we've been waiting for, which is like Victor and Marcus, like, all right, we're going to throw down, which is what Victor asked for at the start of the issue, which was that drop the weapons, we'll go at it, sucker. Marcus is a bit of a sucker. So what do you think?
This is like the perfect, the Marvel comic. At the end, you see Thor going against the Hulk.
Yeah.
Or something like that, right? And I mean, this is just like a traditional superhero comic. And JP, the panels you showed, I mean, my endless frustration with people that I know when I discuss comics in a serious manner is those 2 pages you showed of the boat scene. I said, okay, fine. Here's a pencil. Here's a sheet of paper. This is what I want you to draw me. Can you do it in about an hour?
Yeah.
It's not so easy, is it? I mean, I'm not that hard. I mean, my tone isn't that hard, but right, I'm getting angry because I do get angry about this. I said, it's not easy to do this.
Yeah.
Right? It's not easy to draw stuff like this. Oh, it looks, it's, all these panels have something to say. They have something to say about the storyline. It moves the story and such. Yeah. And comic book artists are as good as the filmmakers, good as the writers, good as the novelists, good as the poets, good as Bob Dylan, good as whoever musician you like. Yeah, and because you can't do this and say, not anybody can do this. Most people cannot do this, in my opinion.
Yeah, in many ways, the artist is like, he's the cameraman, he's the cinematographer, he's he's doing all those jobs.
Yeah.
Taking the written word and doing all of that with, a little direction from the writer, but he's kind of the director too, like in terms of, the way he's putting it together to tell the story. Yeah, and I love like this whole sequence, and then that whole last page, like this 2-page sequence of them getting to the boat and killing off the last of the Yakuza around them for the moment. And you get like these opposite panels at the top of them both like huffing and puffing with their swords and their weapons. And you see their faces, and then they're both standing up and heading toward each other, and then you get that clash that you know is coming, and it's just so well done. Greg, you got anything else about that?
I was just gonna say, like, everything that you guys have talked about, this book doesn't work with a lesser artist on it, right? Like, especially like this sequence, this trade in particular, because you have to have someone that can move the story along when you're having so much action and not as much dialogue. Like, there's still plenty of dialogue in here, but if you don't have someone like Craig who's able to do what he brings to this, it's not going to work. You're not going to be able to do the paneling, the layouts that you have, and it is just this is a masterclass in art, design, and style for me when it comes to a comic. Like, I'd be like, yes, this is, you want to see how to do action, even if you don't like, even if you're not a biggest fan of Craig's art style, you can appreciate what he does in this. And I would show this anyone who's like, I want to figure out how to do art for action. I'm like, yup. Boom.
I think maybe the closest maybe they could do it would be Sean Gordon Murphy.
Okay.
They worked together before, right, on Tokyo Ghost. But even Sean Gordon Murphy, he's more. This is what 50 some issues,
right? Yeah.
And even Murphy's more condensed, right, on arcs and such and storylines. But otherwise, even Sean Gordon Murphy, as much as I like him, I mean, you're right. Craig is perfectly suited for this book. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. So we open the second issue, and we do get our one aside that we get where it slows down and jumps away from the action, because we jump back to Saya for a few pages. And we get her sort of having like this pleasant memory thoughts, from when she was younger. And then we see what's actually happening to her. She's basically chained in the basement in a cell. And we get the big, we get the villain speech from Kenji. He's got a monologue a little bit here.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of this? Is kind of our one breath from the action going on. We get kind of his plan and what he's really trying to accomplish here. And what did you think of this score, of this aside to Saya, our one little pause?
Whenever since Saya had been captured, and I wanted to see more of her, what's going to happen to her,
right?
What is happening? I mean, I knew it was going to be good, right? But I didn't know to what level, to what degree, and so when she appears here, again, I had no idea. Like you all, we already had one cliffhanger before this,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're thinking, okay, it's going to get to this again, right? And no, he doesn't do that. We go to this instead, like you pointed out. And I go, oh, the next issue is about Saya, at least it seemed to be. But you get this beautiful moment to her, just like the other issue started, right? Yeah. And then you just turn the page. Why comics are so damn good. You focus on this page. Look, even the colors themselves. Yeah. What is My Little Pony type of colors, right?
Yeah. Very, pink and happy.
Absolutely. And, then you turn the page and you are in the heart of darkness right there.
Yeah.
And this may be probably my favorite issue of this arc. And the dialogue here between the brother and the sister. And you see the tension that's been with them since the beginning. And what he says to her, what he's discovered about her, what he's discovered about Marcus, what his plans are. And she is chained up and can't do a damn thing about it.
No.
And then it gets worse.
When he opens the door.
Yeah.
Greg, what about you? What do you think of the Saya pages?
I thought it was important for it to tell the story going forward from Saya, because we kind of know everything that Kenji says here, of his plan, and of even killing the mom and that aspect of. But it's important, I think, for the story to start to see, like, for Saya to realize the stakes that we know that are there right now.
Right.
And the way it's done, it just is. Gore, you said it, like the villain speech. I was like, yeah, it's a token villain speech. He's like peeling an orange with with his sword, like a champ. Like, that's over the top, but you'd expect that when you're giving an over the top villain speech, you got to be slicing an orange.
Yeah,
with a sword.
But note that on the speech is important because, like he says in this panel here, he says, "You risked all of this to save this boy's life," and that's the kind of selfless, heroic thing someone does when they're in love. Now, I think we've discussed in the past how she keeps saving him, right?
Right.
And he's conscious of this, and he's throwing it in her face. And if you think about it, frankly, if she had never saved Marcus, would she be in this position? Maybe, right? Because he already has a plan for her, right?
Yeah, he was gonna do something one way or another, or try to do something. Right.
But the thing is, now she's conflicted because she has affections for him. Right. And also, by developing this relationship with him, it's changed her relationship with Maria and the others. It's like this domino effect has happened, which if Marcus had never come into the picture, it would have been maybe not as complicated, I think. Yeah. And I think that's something that she is going to be very much aware about. At least I think so as I go through this. So, it's great paneling, great art. Again, look at this poor girl. Look at that. Mm-hmm. Just chained up there. Remember, she is a child, right? She is a teenager. Yeah. Right?
No, he's a monster. And he makes no bones about it.
Yeah. Sometimes, when I read this, I forget. It's like reading the Teen Titans when I was a kid in the 80s. You forget they're teenagers because the way George Bettis drew them, they kind of look more adult, or the Legion of Superheroes, but you forget. Yeah. And you're putting teenagers through this ordeal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after the Saya thing, we jump back to the craziness in Mexico, and we get a few pages of Helmet and Petra, and we get to see her use the same thing she used to kill Billy, and we see how much guilt she still has. Right. Mm-hmm. I mean, she's like, it never happened, and it's happening to this guy. And what did you think of, before we jump back to the Marcus Victor, which is the main part of this issue? What did you think of the whole Petra situation here, Greg?
Well, I mean, I think it's important. This is, without jumping too far ahead in this story, it's a reminder for us as a reader of what transpired, so that way then some of the storytelling that happens here later on, I think 2 issues, it's a little fresher because I think you want it. There's so much, and it's like, how can you forget what happened to Billy? But there's so much that has happened since then that I think it could be easy to forget, and you have to go, oh yeah, that happened. And so, which just tells you the over the topness of the book that you might have that. And so again, it was a really well done move by Remender here to say, okay, we're going to revisit that without doing a flashback, but telling what happened and reminding you what happened in a different way. So when we get to a couple issues later, those conversations and stuff have a weight to it more, where you don't have to go, oh, that's right. You just go, that's tough. Yeah. And I think that was well done, and it only needed to be 2 pages, and it was.
Yeah. Gor, what about you? What did you think of that little sequence?
Before I get to that, I just wanted to show this panel here. We didn't show this one.
Oh, with the mother? Yeah.
Yeah, what the brother did to the mother. And I just really like there, where Saya is down. The little corner, this little box there.
Yeah.
I mean, this man, all this. I mean, would it have even led to the death of her mother? All these things have transpired because of what she did by saving Marcus.
Yeah.
And but I just like this panel a lot. It's a
good panel. You're right. We should have showed it. So
it's a beautiful the painting on the wall would be just stunningly beautiful and tragic. Yeah. But regarding Petra, I think about Petra because she seems to have like 2 realities. The reality she wants to believe to be true, and she's acknowledging that didn't happen. This happened.
Yeah.
And this helps explain a little bit why was she so cheery when she changed her goth look, went to a nice little preppy girl look after what happened before. And then when she's back in the goth look, back to the one what she sees as her own identity, right? But this thing about her reality here, but this is something we've seen in the book so far. Even with Marcus himself, what is reality, what is not reality. But I did like how Remender did at least make that very clear here about Petra. And I think that's important about Petra at this point, of how she's dealing with what she did.
Yeah.
Because now, again, conflict. She's conflicted. And all these characters, well, most of these characters seem to be conflicted. I'm not going to say all of them, but most of them seem to be conflicted. Where the hero, then the villain, or if it's the villain, it's the hero. And so, yes, anyway, that's my thoughts regarding Petra.
Yeah, I do think, like I said, I agree. It was a good reminder, and it's a good, like, where her state of mind is.
Yes.
Like, we get a little sequence. So then we're back to the main event. Here.
Finally, right? The main event, finally, right?
So in these pages of them two going at it, like, I mean, the punches, smashing Mark, hitting him with the bucket, Marcus's face against the mirror, kicking him in the, they're just flat brutal. I mean, grabbing like just as brutal as you can get. And no surprise, though, in the end, in a hand-to-hand, we end up with, where Victor with the upper hand.
Yes.
Right.
So go ahead, Greg. You were about to say something.
No, it just it's a funny, like, these two have just gone through hell fighting the Yakuza, right? Like, and running and fighting them for,
and they're probably not really out of it, but they don't care.
Right. And they're like, it was instantly, as soon as that boat scene, the last person that they assume the last person dropped, and then they're instantly like, all right, let's go, let's fight. And it is just you feel the hatred, you feel the disdain that they have for each other. And again, the art is fantastic to get the fighting across, and you feel the pain, and you cringe almost with each one. Ooh, and man, I can't talk enough about Wes Craig in this, but Remender too, giving the cues to take the story in the way it needs to go, and what to give us as a reader. But it's just a great fight scene.
Yeah, I mean, and you feel every like their faces on every blow, and like you feel like it's Craig does such a great job. And then even at the end, you feel like the glee, like in Victor's face when he got the just like So unfortunately, that's where we end this issue with those two.
Yes,
and we jump to Z and
Denzel,
and Denzel, and I can never pronounce his name. I always forget.
The skateboarding kid.
Yeah.
Skater.
And they're hiding, and she's freaking out, and he's trying to keep her quiet. And so we finally get the full truth about what happened to her parents.
I know, this is actually where I was like, I read that section. I go, I can't wait to hear what Haley thinks about, because Denzel was always the character that felt less invested into it.
Yeah,
and I was just like reading that, like, again, these backstories are gut punches, and they're like, because I think we mention it every episode. Gor, you've already talked about, like, these are kids. These are teens going through this stuff, and then you see like this. You see what they're going through that leads up to their teenhood, like when they're a kid, and you go, "Good golly!" Like this, and like this is one of those panel like pages, like it just this backstory makes me cringe. And I mean, it does what it needs to do for the character of Zenzel. Like, you feel for Z more, and
Yeah.
her plight.
Not crazy. Like, you realize that she's completely Looney Tunes because of what she has went through. But yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just like, but like, and I read that, like, you're like, as a, as myself as a father of, like, someone, like, how the betrayal a kid must feel, like, that her parents would do such a thing.
Yeah.
And it's heartbreaking, to read that. And so, like, but what does that do emotionally, trauma to you as a kid? And I mean, we see it through the story of what, the demons that she's dealing with and battling. But man, remember, like, I don't need to introduce any more characters to me, because I don't need more backstories. Like, because I feel like it's just like, how do you?
Everyone almost worse, yeah. Gor, what do you think? What did you think of the Zenziel's backstory here?
Unless a weaker writer would have just left Z. I mean, they would have just said, okay, she's what appears to be an evangelical Christian. She's angry, and just left it at that. But what did he do? He has to write letters to her parents before the reader knows what has happened about them.
Letters to her parents, like they're close and like they were a loving family kind of thing.
It's just, it goes back to the Petro thing. There's reality, not reality. Yeah. But it adds a sense of pathos. The tragedy is so deep with this kid. And when I read this, because you're already thinking, this poor girl, she's writing these letters to the parents, or they're dead. No. And now we get into how this happened. And so, but it works so well, I think, because of him having her write those letters.
Yeah.
And we focused on it. And when I read these, I'm thinking, okay, what's going on here? It didn't bug me, but I'm thinking, this is interesting. Why? Okay. And then boom. But at this point, we should not be surprised by any of this. And well, yes, we are going to be surprised about how he did it, but then the emotional gut wrench that we're going to get. And then the coloring of this again.
Oh, yeah.
It's kudos to the colorist. Kudos to the colorist.
Absolutely. Who is it? Boyd? Is that?
Yeah, I think Boyd's the colorist.
Yes, Jordan Boyd. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, because the coloring on on the Saya page, first page of the issue too, it's like you mentioned, and even the coloring beforehand of when it switches from the yellows and the reds with Marcus and Victor, like the team's top notch in this.
Yeah, for sure. So we get a little bit of her backstory here, and then as they're trying to hide, they hear that the Yakuza have captured Brandy, and we see her just like, he's like, what are we going to do? They're going to kill her. And she's like, we let them. See what she thinks of Brandy.
Brandy, you remember I mentioned that in the letters pages, there had been people who really like Brandy?
Brandy,
she's tough. I mean, I have to say, as I read this, no matter what you may think about her, she is just tough to the freaking end.
Well, in this volume, she shines in a way that I didn't expect beforehand.
Exactly.
Wow. Beforehand, she was just kind of the annoying, I'm the popular girl at the school, like the queen bee at the school, at the high school kind of thing. But she actually can back up all the talk as we see in this thing, which is just we don't see it in that we're about to see it, but we go elsewhere for a little bit. But yeah, she can back it up.
Well, I think I think it's very easy for us to forget sometimes with these characters that they are all at a school where they're supposed to be training to be assassins.
Yeah,
and that sometimes we're always just like, oh, Brandy, she's just and she's like, she reminds us as a reader of she's like, I'm here
because she's had a knife in her gut this whole time.
And that's what I think is hats off again to Remender here of where he does he gives us enough about characters that there are some that we don't care about because you can overload with dialogue, right? Too much and with backstory and things. I think he's been giving us enough that we need, that then when we need more, he's like, all right, here, I'm going to give it to you when you need. Like,
she's like a tougher version. Did you ever see the film with Reese Witherspoon, Election?
I haven't.
Yeah, it's been a long time, but yes,
it's a long time, right?
Yeah,
where she's this girl who wants to get elected, to the student council
president or whatever.
Yeah, to get anything to it, and she's quite ruthless. And so, when I read this, I'm thinking it's
the Miss Polite and everything else, but it's really just like Brandy's not the Miss Polite though; she's just the ruthless.
That's right. Yeah. It reminded me a little bit of Reese. Yeah, that film. It's a good film, Greg. You won't like it.
I need to see it.
It's a good film.
So that brings us to the end of issue 2 of this volume, 33. So we go to 34, and I love these first couple pages of 34. Mainly just for we've talked a ton about Wes Craig's art, but Maria's face. We see that her and Quan have held up somewhere after the scene with the rope. Her in the corner where you see that she's put the makeup on. She's just got her eye on that one panel with him in the background, and then you just get her eyes again at the bottom, like the one eye and the makeup.
Absolutely, Jay.
Like, she has transformed back into the killer, right? Like, we'd seen her previously, her and Marcus being happy, but she is right back to this person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah. And Quan does not.
Oh, is that the variant cover for that issue?
No, this is a future issue, actually.
Okay.
This one issue 39. But I
don't know.
It's stunning.
I will say I don't know if this is a variant, but this is in the hardcover.
That's one of the issues. Yeah.
Oh, is that one of the variants then? Yeah. Of Victor and Marcus, or maybe it's the main cover. I don't know, but yeah. That's a crazy one too. But her and this showdown, so wonderful. Yeah. Like in Quan, not that Quan's tough in any way, shape, or form, but I would spill the bean, like her face when she's making him spill the beans, like, like you're gonna tell me, or you're dead meat. Yes, like, it's just. So Gor, I'll let you go first. What did you think of Maria and Quan here?
No surprises here about Maria. No surprises here about Quan. We know what he is. Yeah. It's all about self-preservation.
Yep.
Staying alive, knowing whatever the hell you need to do to stay alive. And to some degree, right? And Maria, top form, this woman. I mean, when the series began, it was Saya, really, and Marcus, right, who got the fans early on.
Yeah.
But then as every issue developed here and on, I mean, it's Maria. Maria, for many of us, I mean, we're like, who the hell is this woman? Yeah. I mean, is she Elektra? What the hell? What the hell?
That's a Frank Miller Daredevil 5. Did you get that away?
Yeah. Frank Miller's all over this thing, right? Yeah. And in a good way, not being copied, no, but it's influence, right? You influence someone in a good way, where they do something new with it, right? And so, I mean, Maria here, how she handles this guy, she tells him, "What did you do? Don't give me your little pity story. I killed a bunch of people at a hospital. So don't tell me what you've been through.
Yeah.
We've all been through this.
Yeah.
Tell me what the hell you're doing." And boom. For a teenage girl, she's pretty good up there. Pretty mature for a teenager. Yeah.
Well, she's been through it. And she knows his BS. She can read his BS from word go.
That's right.
Right.
Greg, what about you? What did you think of this?
Man, I loved it. Like, I think I was Team Saya and Marcus, before.
Yeah.
But I know what he's doing. He's making me Maria and Maria, and then I'm gonna get pulled back into this love triangle. It's like, oh, you're gonna do this to me, and it's gonna be a beautiful thing. But again, like, I'm not gonna go over a lot, like the facial expressions. You've got the face paint back. I love the art of the here where you had the guns with the rat-a-tat-tat-tats.
Yeah.
It gets so again.
It's a loud comic. It's a very loud comic.
Yes, and the art to do stuff like that, to tell the story. I was just like, it's over. It sells it without. You don't need bullet riddling, like, because you're hearing it now, like, so, and you're hearing the words as bullets, and it's like, man, that's.
I like that. The words as bullets. I like that.
Yeah.
I agree with that, Greg. I like that.
Like it's good. Like it's what you want. And Quan's a little weasel.
Words like bullets. Look at that. Or blades. Or knife cutting.
Yep.
So Maria escapes momentarily, and Quan does what Quan does, which is like, I'll help you. And he like rats them all out again in order to survive.
Well, but I will say, like, I feel like that though, that this is at least in this part, this is where he's helping. Like, that is what he does. Like, he wasn't going to go out there and shoot them. Like, his way of helping them was to give her a head start to get out of the way. Like, he's still going to, I think he's trying to do what's right, but I think he's also still 100% preserving himself in this.
Yeah.
But
I
think there's a part of him who's like, let me go out here and try and stop them so you can get going, because nothing else is going to happen. And then he's going to do what he does, and it's preserve himself here. But I think there is a part of him where he is at least emotionally like, go get a head start. And then I'm going to be, and me being a weasel is going to help a little bit in this case, at least.
Maybe. But yeah. So from there, we jump to, we talked about that how big of a badass she is. We can jump to badass Brandy, who's like bleeding out literally, and like, I mean, tricks this guy into trying to shoot her, and although I will say the one thing that is, I'm going to call Wes Craig on one piece of art because it jumped at me, and like, it's the gun changes that the guy's holding on her. Did you notice that?
What do you mean,
JP? From like a semi-automatic, bigger thing, like a machine gun,
yes,
to a pistol.
Oh,
and then it goes back. Like, it's just that one.
I had not noticed that, but you're right.
It jumped at me. I was just like, wait, why is there a pistol in his hand?
Well, it's okay.
But she just goes psycho killer nut,
Again, any wonder why she has fans? This is why she has fans. She's a good Southern girl. Tough.
Oh, yeah. And then we see her basically, after she takes care of them, her versus Zenzel and T, and bleeding out or not, like, she kind of kicks her, you know what.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the end, like, when they run off from her, she's like, fine, okay, make old Brandy earn it. But trust me, if I'm dying, you're coming with me.
That's right. That is right.
Yeah. So what did you think of this sequence here? Brandy showing us what she could actually do, Gor.
No, the thing about Brandy, like you pointed out earlier, she started out as just like the mean girl at the school. But she's much more than that. She's very resilient. And her anger, whatever resentment she has, whatever issues she has, in a way make her quite strong and very dangerous. Very dangerous.
Yeah.
She's someone that, it's like those James Bond films, like you all familiar with, why didn't they just kill James?
Yeah.
Why do they have to go through this little process? No, you kill James Bond. Which otherwise, if you don't kill him, no matter what you do to him, he will come back. Mm-hmm. That is her.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that she's just someone that she's a scorpion. I mean, they're difficult to kill, and you can't trust the scorpions. And so that old story, you take it's the frog that gives the scorpion a ride.
Yeah.
And then it stings the frog. What'd you do that for? It's in my nature. So, yeah. So that's Brandy. So, I mean, she's a fascinating. I mean, she's an interesting character. Mm-hmm. I like her as a character. Obviously, not as a person, obviously. but I can see why people like her. I really can. Yeah.
Well, and
Again, to the credit of Remender's writing. Absolutely.
And we didn't even talk about it in the first issue of this trade. Like when her, Victor, and Marcus are leaving, like Marcus is literally just like, leave her behind. She's dead weight. Like she's slowing us down. And he's like, F you, Marcus. Like, but again, building into that stereotype that she is she's not holding her weight in this situation. And like, I feel like these last two issues have been all just Brandy going,
You don't underestimate her.
I'm going to show you why I'm here.
I might be dying, but I ain't dead.
That's right. Don't underestimate them unless they have a bullet in their head.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just it about these characters. You cannot underestimate.
So from there, the last half of this is all Victor, Marcus.
Yeah. Finally, we get to the when we get to that.
Yeah, we get back to the main event, and Victor's just beating the tar out of Marcus. And of course, as is Marcus's way, he gets saved by, in this case, Maria or Saya is always saving his butt. Like, it's just like for the main character, he really mostly doesn't contribute. I feel like he's the dead weight. Like, if he wants to talk about somebody being the dead, like those two girls save his butt constantly.
Yeah, but he's done his fair share. I mean, what he did in the mansion to go save Maria.
No, I know he has. Yeah.
Like, yes. And I think and to that point though, I think there is something to be said of having them both be saving Marcus is going to add and continue to add to the Marcus's confliction of, like who is he, who's he attracted to, who is he side with, because without both of them in his life, he would be dead at multiple points in this book. So I think those aspects are, he's getting saved by them to keep that tension of Marcus struggling to find out what he wants and what's going to be good for him and who's right for him. Because I mean, I don't know, if a pretty girl saves your life, you're probably indebted to her. Now, then you got to pick between two pretty girls who save your life. Like you're like, oh man, this is tough.
Well, and she, like, when she arrives, she takes advantage of the fact that Marcus had beaten the tar out, like Victor had gotten the tar beat out of him already.
Yeah.
To like
he's
whoop
exhausted.
Him. But like, I mean, she whoops him, but it's because he's clearly not at 100% anymore by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
And I love Marcus's little quip there of like, I softened him up for you.
Yeah.
Marcus is even like, no, you're like, hey, I softened him up.
Yeah, he definitely like, but so we get through. So yeah, we see her save him again, and she gives him a gun to run, but he goes back to Victor.
Yeah,
and this is where it's the other part where it slows down, but it moves these pages of him hearing from Willie and then Victor's side of the things of like, I'm not the bad guy, because everyone's the hero of their own story. And like, whereas Shabnam is like bad. Like Victor's no worse than any of the other kids that are at the school that are being trained to be an assassin. Like when you hear his side of it, what did you think of this sequence? I'm going to let Greg go before Gor this time, but
I mean, I love the internal struggle that Marcus has to have, and having Willie play this kind of like this conversation
angel on the shoulder. Yeah.
Yep. Like this conversation with him of like what he's struggling, what he's dealing with. And, I have viewed Victor the entire series as a tool, a villain, like in this story. And yeah. But when you are getting his side of this, of, he's like, he says the line here, the kind of people you're drawn to, your people, you're not the heroes. Yeah. And, he talks about your people that you think you're close with. Do you know what Petra did? Do you know what, they do? And this idea of I'm doing the exact same stuff, but just because I'm doing it to people that you consider your friends, you write me out as a bully. Like I'm no different than you. And it's like, it was the first time where I think I paused and I'm like, huh.
Well, it really made me, before I let you go, Gore, it
No,
really
go.
brought me back to when we first meet Victor and he's picking on Shabnan. And Marcus steps in and he goes, "You don't know what you just did. That he's not worth that he's not worth it. And that he's actually the villain." And we find out later he was. That like Victor putting Shabnan in his place was probably the right, like, not to say the right thing to do, but like Victor wasn't the bad guy.
No, you're
Probably.
condoning bullying. That's okay, JP. We're
Well, no, I just mean that like
just joking.
it was a reaction probably to something Shabnan has been doing to other,
Right.
to them.
Yep.
And then we see, if you remember, when they're at a party, like the other time when they get antagonistic toward each other before it all eventually goes down, like Marcus just tries to humiliate him at a party in a conversation just because he doesn't like him. And like, so from Victor's, I thought this was super powerful coming from Victor's standpoint of like not redeeming the character, but again, giving you that, like, everybody's the hero of their own story. And to Victor, like, these are the bad students. These are the kids that have been doing the wrong things, like at the school. So, like, I just thought this was super powerful, the way they handled it, the way they handled the Willie stuff, the Victor stuff. Gore, what did you think about this sequence?
No, just to add to both of you, I mean, there's no more heroes here, and I think he sees that. I mean, he's telling Marcus we're both going after the same end, and you're accusing me of being something, but in a way we're very similar.
Yeah.
And then I think what floors him is when he tells him what happened about with Petra's involvement with Willie. I mean, that's very powerful at this point, and I like how it was done. How he just can't handle. It's quite a shock to him at this point. And what I like about this issue, and it's going to develop more in the next issue, is at first we're discussing very primitive things, very human things about why we do things from a more selfish point of view. But in the next issue is more from an ideological point of view, which is where Marcus comes in and says, "Okay, but why did we do these things? Why are you doing what you did? Why did your father do what he did?" And when we get to that issue, I guess I'll elaborate on that.
Yeah.
But certainly here, what he tells him about, and also teach you that Victor is a Soviet. What I liked about so far with Remender is how he puts people where they are, and the fact that this is a Soviet man. Helmut is from East Germany, but he doesn't like communism, right? Because they were occupied by, and this is actually, I think this is intentional. And this is about a year or two before the Cold War ends, before the Berlin Wall ends. So basically, in the backdrop of this, like I mentioned before, is the Cold War. And I think this is intentional by Remender, what he's doing here, and that's going to come up in the next issue. But I agree with you, JP. This is a very powerful issue here as to what Victor has to say to Marcus.
And it ends like another little cliffhanger that we don't have.
Oh, yeah, that cliffhanger. Boom. I didn't know what to think.
Victor tells him about Petra. Marcus kind of freaks out. And he's like you think? He's like, grabs the gun, and you get this, bang on the beach.
That's right.
So, before we turn the page, what did you think before you turned the page, Greg? Did you think he'd done it or not?
Really cool.
No, I didn't. I'm not like trying to I called it or anything. But Marcus didn't die when he got stabbed through. I've seen enough where I'm like on the end pages. I'm like, nah, he didn't die.
What about you, Gore? When you read it originally, did you think?
I thought he could have killed him because what I like about Remender, what Remender can do is if he killed him, and you're going, I can't believe he killed him. Well, the next issue, right? Right. But then he would explain why he killed him. Yeah. And if he didn't kill him, I can't believe he didn't kill him. Then he explains it, why he didn't kill him. And that's what I learned to expect from Rick at this point, is that, but I'm thinking maybe I was leaning more that he did kill him, but I'm thinking he's going to have a reason for it. There's going to be some reason for it. Yeah. And if I'm wrong, he's going to have a reason for that too.
Right.
And I mean, I was wrong, but he had a reason for it.
Yeah. So, we start issue 35. and we see him holding the gun, Maria behind him. They give you the first page, they don't let you know, but second page, you
Beautiful
see.
panels. Absolutely
Yeah.
beautiful.
Oh, gorgeous. Yeah.
Yeah, this is actually beautiful. Again, to those people who don't see comic art as a serious art form, I mean, really? You can't do this in a freaking film.
No.
You can't do this in a movie.
No.
That panel, because your eyes just focus on that.
No.
It's a very moving page right there. Yeah.
But we see Victor still alive, and we get the last issue. Into the last issue, we got to hear Victor's side of the story.
Yeah.
This issue, we get to hear Marcus's. Like Marcus talking to Victor the other way, and you kind of brought it up already, talking about how they've been created, like their parents and the adults, and how they've been pitted against each other, and and that they just, he just wanted out, and he ultimately gives Victor the gun, and he and Maria walk away, and he's like, "Do what you got to do."
Wow. Yeah. That's a wonderful page. I like that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. What did you think, Greg? I'll let you go again. Like,
Man, everything that we've been leading up to this, right? And where then Marcus finally comes to kind of settles with this. We can't do this. This isn't what does he say? We can't lose ourselves to this, Maria. And she doesn't even say she just says, Willie, as in like confirming, like, I get it. Like, this is what Willie would be like, guys, this isn't what, and it's, and then he's like, this isn't what he wanted. It isn't who we are anymore. The road out isn't revenge. It's to forgive the monsters. Like, I'm just like, okay. And
I don't think he's actually talking about Victor when he says
no. I think he's reflecting on his own stuff that he's dealing with, and of saying, I've done so much that I need to walk away so I can forgive myself. Like I think he's trying to rationalize everything. And so, like, yeah, I don't think he's just putting this on Victor. I think he's putting it on everything that they're dealing with. And it just is, I did not see this turn coming a little bit. Like, I wasn't expecting like Marcus to let Victor go after we spent how much time invested in this of the fight all trade long, right? And it's like, wow, okay.
What about you, Gor? What did you think of this? Marcus in prison.
What happened here, at least for me, when I read it, was it made it's the Cold War stuff. What I mean by this is Marcus is from Nicaragua, right? And Nicaragua was at the center of the Cold War. The Americans were supporting the right-wing governments, the Soviets, the left-wing governments. And the father was working for the Americans. So basically, Nicaragua was a proxy. It was just like Vietnam, like Korea, right? And of the superpowers, using these countries for their own interests. And at that point, he's pointing out to him, what interest did you serve with the Soviets? Why did your mom have to die? I mean, in the end, really, why? Why did my parents have to die? Serving, I guess, Reagan and that government in the U.S. at the time. And so I just found this actually utterly fascinating what he did here with this. Is that in a way, Marcus is representing one of these countries involved in the Cold War, being used by them. This man saying, I'm honoring my father, the fatherland. What did the fatherland do for you? And to be fair, if you were an American, what did the Americans do for you in the Cold War by sending you to Korea, by sending you to Vietnam, by sending you to Central America, by overthrowing governments of any kind? How is that fighting for your country, you see? Yeah. And so I saw that as that. And it's one of those things we have an idea of politics, right? Politics don't seem to work, right? And suddenly there's this idealism. I give you the gun. And Marie goes, what are you doing? And what Willie would want. But again, it's the humanity, our common freaking humanity, which is transcends politics, transcends ideology. I mean, I'm an American of Mexican descent. You guys are Americans of European or something descent. We're all males here. But the point is, what keeps us, what's the right thing to do is we do something not because of our identity, not because of our sexuality, because it's of our common humanity to do the freaking right thing, even if it means going against what people would perceive, going against what we're supposed to be. And yeah, I think that's what Marcus is doing when he walks away with her,
Yeah.
is the best in us. Now, the best in us may not be the good thing in the sense of it may get us killed. But at this point, if we're going to die this way,
Yep.
we're going to die this way.
Yeah.
So I was just brilliant what he did. I think what Bender did here.
Yeah, it's an amazing, that whole sequence from the end of their fight with Maria arriving, the Willie Victor side of the story, it's just an amazing part of this story. I mean, it's just so good. But then we jump right back into the crap.
Oh my God. Yeah, yes.
And we talked about her and
Yeah.
Crazy Psycho, Brandy is not yet,
She's not to be trifled with.
not to be driving with.
No.
Somehow they were driving away and she still gets in front of them, And so the others are all, Brandy's hunting the others. And the panel I showed and then the one below it, like she's just like nuts.
Yeah.
So she's hunting them down. Her and Petra ended up in a fight. Marcus and Maria show up. The federales who were paid off are there. And they're all getting split up by the gunfire. And we get Marcus and Petra in the alley. And he tells her he knows what she did to Billy. And he says he forgives her. What did you guys think during the scene? Gor, I'll let you go first this time.
First, I like how, in the end, she tries to, she takes on Brandy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Petra takes on Brandy, and this has been burning up, and yes, finally the confrontation, right, with the confession where he tells her, "I know what you did," and she goes, "What?" "I know what you did," but he says, "I forgive you." I won't elaborate too more before this, but at this point I just like that expression on her face.
Yeah.
They go, "I know what you did. I know what you did. But I forgive you." But it gets complicated with Remender. And I like what he does here because you're thinking, "Oh, he forgave her." That's, if you're in Deadly Class area, it's not going to be as clear cut as that. If you want a Hallmark movie, you watch a Hallmark movie. This is not a Hallmark film. So I enjoyed these 2 pages in particular.
Yeah. And so we see. Greg, go ahead before we jump to the next. What happens afterward? What do you think of Marcus and Petra?
Before we get too far down this road, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this. Hats off to Rick Remender here by volume 8. Are we on volume 8?
7.
Volume 7. He did not have a poop joke in here.
He did not.
That's right. You guys pointed that out, which I just ignored.
But he didn't in the. It was now to the stage that after 6-ish volumes, I'm like, he's going to. He doesn't now, so it's like, of course. This is what I've loved about the series. You don't think it's going to be a happy ending, obviously, but you're like, okay,
Marcus, a nice moment. You think?
Yeah, you're going to have some nice moments, but all these nice moments are very fleeting. And you even get I think you get the little bit of the struggle of Petra of, where she's like, I didn't like. I think, Gordon, you mentioned how like she has 2 realities. I think there is still like she's kind of dealing in that reality a little bit of like, I didn't. Because of how like emphatic she is here of that she's dealing with some mental trauma that she has gone through.
Yes, because remember her family background is pretty horrific.
Yeah.
And I think she has gotten to the stage where she can, I don't even want to say compartmentalize something, but almost like separate herself as in two different characters of.
I agree with that. Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
would agree with that too.
And I think that's what we're seeing here. A little bit of,
Yeah.
She's like, wait, no, I wouldn't have done that. And you're like this moment with Marcus and her, like, okay. And I don't think Remender gives us that moment for Petra as much as it is for Marcus. I think for Marcus going forward as a story, because he was so distraught, the last issue when he was like, no.
Yeah.
When Victor was like, she did this. I think it's giving us more character development for Marcus of understanding of, who they all are and all the pieces that they're playing. And, where he's kind of I don't want to say he forgave Victor, but like he put the gun down and said, I'm going to walk away and let you make the choice. I know you killed one of my good friends here, Petra. I'm forgiving you in this moment. So I think we're getting a look more of Marcus and who Remender's trying to create Marcus to be in this. And I feel like he's setting the stage for something just because it's what he does. But it was a nice moment, as short as it was.
It was. I also think it gets her killed. So, like, the next page, obviously, we get Brandy interrupts. And he smacks
I like
her.
that. Yeah, that was just
and
turn the page and boom.
Yeah, she knocks him out or hits him in the head with the stick. And Marcus, right or wrong, is unable to, like, whether it's truly he's unable or he's unable to get up. But I think the other thing is Petra doesn't try to defend herself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because Marcus broke when he told her he forgave her and made her deal with, like, mentally, she was dealing with those two realities we've talked about coming together, that no, it was real and he's forgiving me for it. Like, she's frozen, like, to the point of she does not even really try to defend herself when Brandy comes at her. And so, like, whereas we just seen her, like, dive on Brandy, like, 3 pages ago and, like, tackle her and fight, and now she just, like, falls down and, like, doesn't do anything because she's still dealing with what he just said and made her deal with. Am I way off base? What did you think of that? What do you think of that, Gor?
You're absolutely right, JP. And I had not, because this page here, you're right. I had been thinking about this page, and you finally just hit it. And wow.
It's not intentional on his part. He's trying.
I like this. I think you're absolutely right. And
he's trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like, it costs her. Like, the fact that he's going to blame himself for not getting up. I don't think that's where he should be blamed. Like, that's not what really, like, caused it. It's not that he didn't come to her defense. It's that he brought her defenses down in this moment. Like, he picked a shitty time to tell her.
No, I like that. Psychologically, it affected her to such a degree. Because you're right. Because we just saw this panel where she's jumping out of the car.
Yeah.
And how does that suddenly change? It changes because of this. I missed that completely, JP. That connection there. It's very subtle, but it's a very important connection that you pointed out. And oh my God, this is absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And then to add to the pathos is Remender throws the rug under us, because here's when we think Marcus is the hero. He's like Superman. He's like Captain America. You can't touch them, right? But here you say, do I get up? Do I not get up? I can't. Can you not? And she basically accepting her fate in a way, in some way. This is even more tragic than I imagined. And I had not noticed that, JP. I think you're absolutely 100% right. Wow, this is so
well, and it's furthering the inner turmoil that Marcus has, right? Of where he's trying to figure out, like, did I really mean what I said? And
yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And is all the stuff he's struggling with Willie and Victor, and like, I mean, they're all messed up, but like, man, Marcus is Marcus is a confused lad here, and Remender's not doing him any justice here by he's making him continually be having to question every decision he makes.
And it's so brutal the way she kills her,
Yep.
you know, and how he kills her and how it's just to choke on your own blood. It's absolutely horrific. And then Helmet running up there.
Oh yeah, Helmet just
Yeah. Seeing her, you know, and then it's like a reverse role, like how she saw Billy die, looking into his eyes, right?
Yeah.
And now it's like reverse, and he's looking into her eyes. This is a very powerful. I mean, these are all just very powerful moments. Yep. And now that you added that insight, well, JP, which I had completely missed, this is so beautifully tragic.
Oh,
it's absolutely beautifully. It's like a Greek tragedy. It really is.
He attempts again to do the right thing, and it becomes the wrong thing again. Like in the moment, because of the moment he chose. And yeah.
Well, that's so well done. Absolutely right. Absolutely.
So then, of course, Quan shows up again.
Yes, Quan.
Telling them where they went. And it's like, you're going to let my friends go, right? And he's like, the one in the black shirt. And like, they're never going to let them go. Like, you just. But they get saved by a sniper. What did you think, Greg? What did you think when how they got saved?
I didn't see it coming. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm like, when he's like, shoot them all except the boy, I'm like, okay. My mindset before I flipped the page was, who's gonna save him? Someone's gonna come in here and save him. Like, Saya's locked up. Like, who is it? Like, and you know, even for a second, I'm like, I don't know who's gonna do it. And then as soon as I flipped the page, I saw Blam. I'm like, who still? And as soon as he said sniper, I was like, Victor! I was like, no. I was like, yeah. And then I was just like,
Victor will cover you. Yeah, you know.
I was like, how freaking beautiful of writing that was. Of, you know, again, where it's showing us that they're all flawed, but we're getting now. We finally have a glimpse of Victor as a. I don't even like as a hero in this, like where we, you know, even again, they're all flawed and they're all villains in this aspect to a degree, but like you've never gotten to see like where you rooted for or were excited for Victor doing something, because we've always seen Victor in Marcus's eyes or Maria's eyes, right? As in, you're the villain of this story, but finally we get to see where it's like, he's trying, he's a teen. They're all teens trying to figure out what's right, what's wrong, and kids have that struggle all the time anyways of trying to figure that balance, let alone then when you're trying to be an assassin murderer.
Yeah. Gor, what'd you think when it was Victor?
Yeah, it makes me think of back to Frank Miller. You guys all of you have read Born Again, right?
Yes.
Remember Nuke? Yeah, remember Nuke, the character at the final issue or two, where he's basically made to believe, you know, he's all about, hey, America, right? And he's being used by the government, right? And here by the Kingpin, being manipulated. Nuke, in a way, has been manipulated by the Soviets, right? And he really believes in that. But then after what happened with Marcus, he begins to at least question that in some way. And he comes in the end, and here he saves these people. And because once you get beyond ideology, maybe he feels he has a debt to pay because Marcus could have killed him. He didn't kill him. But already there's a chink already there that's been, you know, chipped away as to, it makes him think twice. Because easily you could let them all be killed, but he didn't do that. No. And so we have this. And the thing is about the writing here, there's a consistency in the writing. The characters are acting in a way where if it's a weak writer, why would he save them? Why would he do that? No, we're not asking ourselves that.
No.
It makes sense why he would do that at this point. And so far, up to this point, is the consistency in the character development that Remender and Craig have been able to do to keep the book very convincing.
No.
And even though this is a kind of far-fetched world, but yet it's grounded in enough reality to make us go, it's credible. It's absolutely credible that Victor would be the sniper. And I was surprised too that it was him. But then when I saw it, it made sense.
It did make sense.
It made sense.
It made sense that he would make that choice.
Yeah,
so we see Marcus turn a former enemy, antagonist, into not necessarily his friend, but someone he's got an understanding with at this point.
A frenemy, I suppose.
A frenemy. They're not at each other's throats. But he appears to have made a new one at the end. What did you think of the sequence with Helmet and Marcus at the end of this book? Gor, I'll let you go first because this time.
I guess talking about these panels here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. In a conventional comic book or film, hey, bro, let me hug you out.
Yeah.
That's not what we're getting here.
Well, that's what Marcus is trying to do, but yeah,
right.
Helmet's having none of it.
Right? No, not going to have it because, and already the reader's thinking, could he have done something to save her? But either way, doesn't matter because Victor is not Victor, but Helmet. Not so sure if he's going to believe him.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like he does believe him. Or maybe you don't. It doesn't matter now. Not to her anyway.
Yeah.
Beautiful panel, beautiful ending. And in the end, it doesn't really matter at all. At least not to him. I mean, you made your choice here. So he doesn't really believe him. He tried to do something. But again, it's the characters here. For us, the reader, is he's not playing on our expectations as to what we think. He's not trying to make us like the character. I think that's when a writer is very weak. Again, and I'm not going to mention the writer, but it's when a writer says, you must like this person because they're doing this. That's when it seems forced. That's when it turns me off.
Yeah.
And but here, what he does, what Mender's doing with these characters, they're interesting, and you do like them to some degree, because in a way, it really is us. If we were in the same freaking situation, if any one of these characters, that mirror may not show a good reflection of us.
No.
But it's human, right? And now the title of this is what? Love Like Blood, right?
Yeah.
That comes from a song by The Killing Joke. This was a band.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys are familiar with The Killing Joke.
Mm-hmm.
They were an 80s punk band.
Okay.
And 80s punk band. And this is a reference to that song. I mean, he hasn't acknowledged it, but it has to be.
Yeah.
And I wrote down some of the lyrics. Some of the lyrics are, and self-preservation rules the day no more. We must dream of promised lands and fields that never fade. As we move towards no end, we learn to die. A love like blood. The Killing Joke were a very political band in the 80s. And they have a song called The 80s, which there's a video about it on YouTube. And in the video, it has Brezhnev, it has the Khomeini, it has Reagan, it has Thatcher. But that song is about, and self-preservation rules the day no more. Basically is about the person overcoming those things to becoming a better person. Mm-hmm. And I think that's intentional. It's very intentional by Remender. And I have had this CD for a long time. And I was looking through it today. And note what I noticed. Where have you seen this before? Look at that clown.
Yeah.
You've seen that clown in some of these stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've seen that clown in some of these stories. That when Marcus is thinking about a clown, right? The clown.
Yeah. Well, when he's like what was it, the candy bar or something that was talking.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And it's appeared in some of the albums of The Killing Joke.
Yeah.
And
usually when Marcus is on something,
it's on something. But I think for Remender's purposes, music is important in his stories, and it's for inspiration and such. And I mentioned the song earlier when they were at the diner with Saya. This is not the end.
Yeah.
And it's something again to keep in mind as we go through this. But certainly when I was looking through this today, Love Like Blood, yeah, it's a reference to this song by the band The Killing Joke, which predates Alan Moore's book. And I'm not sure if Alan Moore got the name from this band or not, but either way, but yeah, but it's a wonderful ending to this story arc, and this is actually it's in the middle of the storyline. It's extremely important to what happens next. Yeah, but to the end.
Yeah. So what do you think of the end with Helmet here, Greg?
I mean, how do I follow that, Jamie?
I'm sorry, I babbled on too long.
No, it's all good stuff. I mean, everything that you said, what this does now is set me up to, again, I'm always excited to read more of this story, but to see the dynamic now of Victor and Marcus and Shabney, like he's on the cover of this book and we don't even see him the entire issue, or in the entire trade, and what that's going to do now with Helmet, and like what are the dynamics now when we get to this. And so I thought it was a beautiful, like I like that it doesn't wrap things up in a nice little bow of like, hey, I forgave her and I tried, and he's like, you know what, you did, and we'll get through. Like it was just like, well, did you? Maybe not. And so now you're like, well, did he try? Mm-hmm. What's Helmut saying here? And you're like, oh,
yeah.
Now I want to read more.
I mean, he clearly, you took one antagonist and you replaced him. Potentially appears with another, because Helmut clearly does not believe him. Like whatever he says, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. He doesn't believe him. He doesn't believe him, and it'll be interesting to see where that goes, because and Marcus is of course going to beat himself up. Given what he just went through with Victor, and he got smacked. Brandy smacked him in the head with a freaking 2x4. Like the odds are he could not have helped her quick enough, but he's still going to beat himself up over it for sure. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see where this goes, because Helmet was kind of this new group, the fun-loving one. He was the one that was, humor and, and I don't think we're going to see that side of him now. And so it'll be very interesting to see where he goes going forward, for sure. So.
Ideologically, the book, in the sense that you mentioned Shabden, is that up until this point, for example, with back to Victor, right? What he was doing is not just because he wanted his father's respect. He was fighting for something, right? He was fighting with communism. It's a good thing. We do terrible things, but in the end, we're doing it for a noble cause. The United States, right? We're overthrowing governments. We're supporting right-wing regimes. In the 80s, we supported Saddam Hussein, while the Soviets supported Iran in that war. But it's for a noble cause. It's America, freedom, right?
Yeah.
And Shabnam is different. Shabnam has no ideology, has no loyalty. Yeah. It's just about power, money, etc.
Yeah.
Right, and self-interest and self-preservation, and no ideology, no values, no ideals, nothing of that sort. No sense of right or wrong. Basically, the view is there are losers and there are winners.
Yeah.
You want to be a loser, or you want to be a winner? I live in Texas, and University of Texas at Austin is like one of the most popular college teams, and the Cowboys. I don't know how much I've heard that growing up in this state. Doesn't matter. You're a Cowboys fan or you're not. No matter what the Cowboys do, they do it because they're winners. They're not losers. And that ideology. So when I read this book,
they watch the Cowboys for a while.
I'm a non-football fan, but if you say you're a non-Cowboy fan, it's like saying you hate bunny rabbits. It's really fanatical. So yeah, that sort of thing. So Shabnam is interesting here. What Remender has done, you know, as for character seems to matter to some degree, and Shabnam, no, it's a weakness, and ideologies are weaknesses. He didn't have to deal with any of that. So,
all right. Final thoughts on this volume, Greg. Final thoughts.
It was one of my more favorite volumes that we've gotten. It did what I wanted it to do. The action while still moving the relationships and the story along. I thought it was a well done all the way through with art, and it was great. I loved it.
Yeah. Gor.
Essential stories. He's absolutely essential for what happened before, and it's right in the middle, and what's going to happen afterwards. And sometimes when I if you're the type that doesn't mind jumping in the middle of things, likes mystery, and this is a good volume to begin. What? The middle of everything. Doesn't matter. You read it, you're engaged, you can go back into the past. What led up to this?
Yeah.
It's just so well done. It'll keep you intrigued. But who is this character? Why are they doing this? What happened here? What? Huh? What? Huh? And then you go back.
Yeah.
It's excellent. Yeah.
For me, my final thoughts on this is what I found that Remender and Craig both did so well in this, and the colorist too, Boyd, is that we talked about at the beginning that it was this giant action sequence, like 4-issue action sequence, and yet, despite really having only a few pauses, we had all these emotional character moments in it. Yep. We had the moment with Marcus and Petra. We had the moments with Marcus and Victor, and we had the moments with Saya and her brother. And we had we see Quan going back and forth, and we see we have a few moments with Helmet and Petra when after she gasses the guy, and there's so many good, and Brandy just being Brandy. There's so many great character building in an action sequence in a way that works so well. And I just thought, yeah, it's an amazing volume. I thought it was easily one of the better ones so far, and can't wait to read more.
But again, remember, it only works because of what preceded it.
Right? Yeah.
We have our memory of everything that preceded it on each one of the characters.
Yeah.
That's why when early in the issues there would be what seem like, I'm not sure what happened here. But when you get to stuff like this, now all that makes very much sense. That's why it's a really good novel. Yeah. Or stuff that happens early on in the novel. Why is this happening here? Oh, that's why that happened.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're coming up on an hour and a half, so we're going to get out of here. I want to thank Lasso, who stopped in late, Kenneth Bird. We had Chaos for a while, GT Key, Coach Vic, and a few other people, I'm sure, because the number's been a little higher than that. So thank you all for watching.
Yeah, thank you.
We will see you sometime in a month or so for volume 8. We're kicking off season 4 of the Indie Show in May. So although we're not really changing our shows, but we're going to make it season 4. So there you go. All right. Later, everybody.
Later, everybody.